Let's grab the Tennessee thing. So I had just come home from prison, right? So I had everything, lost everything. When I came home from prison, like the day I came home, I thought I was going back to my business, right? I knew things were messed up at home and all that, but I thought, well, I've got the business that I've made. I have a bank account. I'm going to be able to do things, right? Came home and I didn't have access to any of that. So that's probably 3-4 videos just in itself.
Yeah.
So let's fast forward to, I'm off probation. I was making money again, right? I was on probation for 3 years. And it was a trip too, because I'd get these probation officers. And at first I had this probation officer, I think his name was Sean, and this is federal probation. So you go downtown, like as soon as I get home, I go downtown. And by home, I mean I'm in the halfway house. I'm back in my city instead of 400, 500, 600 miles away in Santa Barbara. I don't know what the distance was, but it's a long way. It's like Northern California compared to Southern California. It's like up by San Francisco, kind of, I guess. So I get back in the community, and the first, second day I'm there, I have to go to the probation officer. And the probation officer is in a big building downtown San Diego, and I walk in, and he goes, John Willis, John Willis, John Willis. He goes, your name sounds really familiar to me. I go, that's probably not a good thing. And I hadn't been in trouble in like 14 years, right? Anything that I was in trouble for was when I was like 17 and a half years old. So he couldn't know me from there. So he starts reading through my stuff, just looking through. He goes, I saw you on CNN. He goes, you got completely fucked. Like, this is my probation officer telling me this. He goes, look, they're gonna come at you, the feds, this is how they work. They're gonna come at you and they're gonna want you to snitch on other people. I go, yeah, they already did. They were gonna let me out of prison at halfway if I gave up this dude. He goes, what'd you do? I go, what do you think I did? Like, I'm here 2 years later. Obviously I didn't give him up, right? And he goes, good, keep doing that. He goes, they're gonna come at you and want you to give up some other people. And he goes, as soon as you give them anything or even are friendly with them, they will use something to twist against you and you will never be out from under their thumb. So we're talking, he's like, so what do you do? I go, I have a sewing machine, and we build, gear and stuff. They ended up buying 120 of our pouches for their cell phones back then, which was kind of neat. So I get this new probation officer, and it's some lady, and Amanda's there when it happens, and she comes in, and this lady comes, and she's like, needs to talk to Amanda alone, right? So she's like, are you in fear for your life? Do you feel like you're under duress? Like all kinds of crazy shit they're asking Amanda. And then the lady had come and pounds on the door, right? And I open the door up, and there's a bunch of dudes in there. And she's like, who are all these guys? I go, these are Navy SEALs. She goes, who are they really? And they're like, ma'am, we're Naval Special Warfare. We're SEAL Team 7. We're, Foxtrot Platoon. And they start pulling out IDs and shit. And she's like, oh, so you weren't full. I go, no, I haven't told you anything that's embellished. I go, I haven't upplayed or downplayed anything. I've been 100% forward with you. You know everything about me. And she kind of eased up after that. But so the day I get off probation, I'm talking to James Yeager. It's a trip that I even feel I need to even say his last name. There's so many new people in the audience, right? So I'm talking to James. I'm in the checkout in the Kearney Mesa Walmart, and we're in the garden center because it used to be faster to check out through the garden center. So I'm talking to James on the phone, and of course on the phone, it's weird because I don't talk on the phone anymore, so I feel like I gotta qualify it. So I'm talking to James, and I'm like, I need to get the fuck out of San Diego. He's like, what's up? I need to get out of San Diego. He's like, come to Tennessee. I go, okay. He goes, you won't. I go, yes I will. No you won't. So it was kind of like oh yeah, I'll show you. So we literally, a couple days later, like I'm off probation, we get a plane ticket. Amanda and I fly out from Cali to Tennessee. James gives me this old Crown Vic to drive around, and we're like lost. We're driving around for hours, and finally we get a GPS signal or something. I don't think we even had GPS in the phone. I think we had like a GPS unit back then. And we GPS it, we get a signal, and we're like 5 minutes from James's house, but we're like lost. Like we're just driving around everything out here, get back there, and we end up renting, like, we were here 2-3 days looking for a place, couldn't find nothing. Like, you know how that is. You've seen that. Like, there's tons of places, but like you go in them and there's like no floor in the house and shit. It's a trip. It's a culture shock. So we go to see our friend Tracy Hightower, and he's like, hey, the lady across the street, that house is empty. She might rent that. So we just happened, just by chance, talked to her. We ended up renting the house right then. And 30 days later, we moved out here. And I moved out here having come home from, having just been in prison, 3 years of probation. I can finally now, I can breathe, right? I don't have to go and worry about piss tests. And even I didn't have to really then. The first probation officer was like, hey, you don't have any drugs in any of your stuff. You've never had a history of drugs. He goes, why don't you come in 3 days in a row and just piss for me, and we'll just mark it off. But then the other lady was like, hey, you got to come in and piss. So it was back into the bullshit again. Very just correctionized, institutionalized. So we did. We moved here with the intention of just hiring a couple of employees and just kind of doing custom stuff. And it was never going to be fast cars. It wasn't going to be Range Rovers, none of that shit, right? I just wanted to have a garden and just have enough money to pay my bills. And coming from California to here, my bills, my rent in San Diego 25 years ago, probably 20 years ago, was $2,500 for a 2-bedroom apartment and 3 garages that were attached, right? I move here and we rent a 3,500 square foot house on an acre, 2 private lakes and shit in the area, the community, I guess, right there. And it was $850. So we tripled our money just, moving here. Mm-hmm. So we're talking about doing a podcast, guys. Some of you have no idea about the history of my company. Some of you guys have no idea who I even am. Some of you do. And some of you have heard some stuff I just said that you've already heard a dozen times, and some of you guys haven't, and maybe you find it interesting. But we're toying with the idea of doing a podcast that we can take and kind of break into smaller videos, as well as have an audio version uploaded as a podcast. If that's something you're interested in, leave some comments. I know Scully and I did the Pulling the Thread podcast, which turned into what you know it as. It definitely didn't start that way. Ask some questions, leave some comments, and maybe that'll give us some content for the next video or the next podcast. Just give us some things, some topics you want to talk about. Put them in the form of a question, and we'll see where we go with it. This was just something, we'd been shooting some videos today, and Austin's been putting together a ton of videos today. So I said, hey, before you're ready to get out of here, just hit me up. He's trying to go home. All the employees are about to leave, so we're going to cut this off right here. But this is unscripted. You just saw everything uncut like we used to do it. And I run in 10 different directions, whereas when you guys used to see us do just raw video, there was only one direction. So we'll see where this goes. Leave some comments for us about what you want to see. Even if you don't want to see it, that's fine. It's amazing the time people put into stuff they don't like. So leave us some comments for that too. All right, guys.
I'm talking about Willis, one of the realest to try. My family, SOE, got the tools to survive.